and is sponsored by the Asheville Friends Meeting, the Center for Native Health, the Key Center, the NEH Professor, Humanities Program, Office of Multicultural Affairs, Office of Institutional Equity, Highsmith Lecture Fund, and Global Studies Program. And now to introduce our artist, who, by the way, traveled really far to get here yesterday, so we should all be like super grateful that they're awake and sitting in front of us, because the flights were very long. We'll start with Mare Advertencia. Mare Advertencia is one of the most important rap references in Mexico. Since 2003, she has independently developed her project. She is self-taught and self-managed. Rap has allowed her to build her story and question her reality, dealing with uncomfortable issues on 3 productions, multiple collaborations, and projects as diverse as Narrativas y Memorias de la Desaparición in Mexico, Narratives and Memories of Disappearance in Mexico, the album Un Canto por Mexico, Volume 2, A Chant for Mexico, of Natalie Lafourcade, and the soundtrack Black Panther, Wakanda Forever 2022. Yes, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, Mare Advertencia. In which she collaborated with Vivir Quintana on the song Árboles Bajo el Mar, Trees Under the Sea. She has claimed different political identities through her songs since the beginning of her career. Her voice has amplified and questioned the present reality based on a narrative that evolves constantly. So welcome and thank you for being here, Mare. Next, we have Tal Paul, who is Anishinaabe and Oneida hip-hop artist enrolled on the Leech Lake Reservation in Minnesota. Born and raised in Minneapolis, his music strongly reflects his inner-city upbringing. From personal expressions of self to thought-provoking commentary on issues affecting Indigenous and diverse communities as a whole, Tal Paul's music evokes a wide range of substance and soul. His song and video clip, Prayers in a Song, which my kids love, by the way, a production of PBS Wisconsin Education, encapsulates in between Anishinaabe, Mauen, and English a powerful in-betweenness of being urban and indigenous. His latest album is a homage to the great Native American athlete Jim Thorpe, and also my kids loved your video that kind of introduces that work. It's really cool, you should check it out for sure. Thank you for being here, Tal Paul, coming all the way from Minnesota. Okay, and now we have Gonzalo Huanco, who is an artist of the new cumbia and rap Mapuche. As a teenager, he started under the pseudonym Minuto Soler, which he later evolved towards his Mapuche identity, adopting his last name as his artistic name. Luanco is a teacher of history and a composer with 5 albums already released. He has traveled throughout the Chilean territory and has taken his kimun, or Mapuche wisdom, to other countries such as Uruguay, Argentina, and the United States. His discography, Inche Taluanco, A Pies Pelados, Oral Tradition, and Quetrolelan, and his latest, Mapu Beats, from 2023, contain verses that alternate between Spanish and Mapudungun, reactivating the native language and delivering a message to the new generations. Instruments such as trompe, pifilca, trutruca, or kutrun appear frequently in his songs. And I have been playing his music a lot in my car as I'm driving around Asheville. It's incredible. So let's all say thank you to Luanco, who has the longest.
Buenos días, buenas tardes, Suacho. It's really nice to see you here. Thank you for coming. Thank you to the artists that are here, and all the not just the musicians, but also there is a team that I will introduce right now. And I just wanted to say a few words and then we will go with the conversation. So why hip hop nativo? Some of you maybe are wondering about it. So as Kyle Mays writes in Hip Hop Beats, Indigenous Rhymes, this is Kyle Mays, indigenous hip hop might be one of the most important cultural forces that has hit indigenous North America, and I will add, like south of Abya Yala, since the ghost dance movement in the late 19th century. Straight up, hip hop allows for indigenous people through culture to express themselves as modern subjects. They can use it to move beyond the persistent narratives or their demise or their invisibility, or the notion that they are people of the past incapable of engaging with modernity. So that's the quote. Rhythmic lyrics, drums, stomp dances have been beating for millennia among First Nations from Abya Yala. Today, in activating indigenous beats, languages, and codes via hip hop aesthetics, our guest artists are challenging stereotypes and expectations about indigeneity. So Luanco, Mare, Topol, and Spaceman Jones, he's not here, but he's an African-American rapper based in Nashville that will be in the concert, and that's really important for us that he accepted that to be part of this celebration. They have been in the hip-hop scene for a while, and they represent a generation of musicians who face their community's reality with dignity and strength. Their rhymes activate native languages, disrupt heteropatriarchy, and challenge racism. Although a selection is always subjective, we work hard with Corey to ensure there was representation from the South, Mapuche in this case, from the center, Zapotec, and from the north of Abya Yala, as well as from different genders and genres. So, but of course there are so many indigenous rappers today, so we hope that you and everybody here in the room help for the next one, the next festival. I don't know when, but hopefully that happens. So in addition to the hip-hop artists that are here with us today, this festival is an effort of many individuals. For example, Luis Martinez is a Zapotec artist who created the art of the poster. And Chanel Feather and Jared Wildcat, they are artists and educators of the Museum of the Cherokee Indian, and they will be the MCs during the concert this Friday at 6 p.m. on the quad, so hope that you can make it. Artists and educators like Byron Tenesaca, he's Quichua Cañari, Abel Gonzalez, he's Ñañú, and Jacqueline Swimmer, he's Cherokee from the Eastern Band, will be leading a collective cross-cultural mural at UNCA on Thursday. So if you are around this Thursday in front of the fire pit in Newland Park, we are gonna build this mural all day. So if you are, if you want to pass by and help, that would be awesome. We want to be, a cross-cultural space within the university. And videographer Rodrigo Diaz, he's with us here. He's Cachiquel, and he will be documenting the festival. And a local group of Aztec dancers who are coming from Hendersonville, they are going to be also part of this festival. And also the cooperative of Sensontli, who is interpreting today. You're going to listen some whisper, and they will explain us why. And so, thank you to all of them, and thank you, I would say, Fie Inshinga, in celebrating the native languages. That's the language of Bakata and Muskumu. So, let's do it. So this is it's an open question. So people are gonna go, they're gonna share their perspectives, and if you have questions, keep it there. So maybe you can also participate, and it's just informal. So, Mari, Juanco, Tom, Paul, gracias, thank you. And I was wondering si ustedes podrían compartir un poquito, why hip hop? ¿Por qué hip hop? ¿Cómo llegaron al hip hop? Why did you go? How did you meet with this genre? What is the story behind? ¿Cómo es la historia? Mari.
Gracias a toda la gente que está aquí para escuchar. Me van a ayudar a traducir las compañeras de Sontle.
Hi everyone, thank you for being here. Thanks for all the people that are here. And I'm going to get support from Sonsonte's interpreters to help me with the English.
El detonante de esta pregunta creo que tendría que ser cómo construimos la identidad, cómo sabemos quiénes somos y cómo construimos nuestra historia individual y común.
And really this question is, how do we form our identities? Who are we? And how do we answer this question?
Yo soy del sur de México. Este territorio tiene reconocidos 68 pueblos originarios. Hay uno más que está en disputa por el reconocimiento del Estado mexicano.
So I'm from the south of Mexico, and we are home to 68 original people, and there's one under dispute to be recognized by the Mexican government.
Y dentro de mi infancia y de mi desarrollo, yo me consideré mestiza mucho tiempo.
And within my development and growing up, I considered myself mestiza for a long time.
Entendiendo que la identidad de los estados-nación es el mestizaje, es desconocer cuál es nuestro origen y reconocernos solo como parte de estos territorios que los estados construyen.
And really a large part of the identity is to be a mestizaje and to be part of these lands that we're coming from.
Para mí el descubrimiento de quién soy vino también con el poder desarrollar mi creatividad y ahí es donde entra el rap.
Really, the discovery of who I am was a part, and that's where rap comes in because it was part of the story.
Cuando una no sabe quién es, empieza a preguntar y estas preguntas se necesitan hacer en voz alta para encontrar las respuestas.
And a lot of the times we have to ask these questions of who we are we, and we have to do that out loud to find the answer.
El rap me ayudó para empezar a utilizar mi palabra para preguntar en voz alta y para empezar a encontrar estas respuestas en otras voces, en otros oídos, en otros grupos que como yo también estábamos en búsqueda.
And rap really helped me to be able to ask those questions out loud and to connect with other groups and to hear other voices as well.
Yo crecí en la periferia de Oaxaca, soy primera generación nacida en la ciudad. El desplazamiento económico, es decir, mi familia tuvo que salir de la comunidad al no haber recursos ni oportunidades de desarrollo.
I am from Oaxaca. I'm first generation that was born in the city, and really we saw a lot of having to go to the city because of the displacement, the economic displacement that we were facing.
Y a pesar de que existe en este territorio una presencia de muchos pueblos originarios y en el Estado-Nación México existen muchos más, no había una representación real para podernos reconocer como parte de.
And even though in Mexico there's a lot of originals people, we don't have a lot of representation to be seen.
Así que esas preguntas tenía que hacerlas mucho más fuerte para poder empezar a encontrarme.
And I had to ask those questions a lot louder to be able to find them, to be able to find the answers.
Y desde esta necesidad encontré el rap como una manifestación cultural también marginalizada, también de la periferia, también en la exclusión y el margen de este Estado-nación.
And that's how I found rap and really being able to connect with the culture and still being on the margins, still being on the outside, really wanting to connect.
Creo que ese es el por qué me empecé a desarrollar dentro del rap. Al no tener otro lugar, tuve que crearme mi propio espacio seguro y tuve que encontrar mi comunidad segura, que éramos estas personas desplazadas.
And really, rap was a safe place for me to be able to connect with my community, to find my community, and it was really a safe place for me to be.
Después me di cuenta que la historia es común, que lo que a mí me pasa no solo me pasa a mí. Hay muchas otras personas que se están haciendo estas mismas preguntas.
And really, I was able to find a common ground, that I wasn't the only one having these questions.
¿Quiénes somos? ¿Cómo llegamos aquí? Si tenemos una historia o hacia dónde va nuestra historia.
And really the question is, like, how did we get here? Who are we? And how? And where are we going?
Y en eso pude empezar a nombrarme como zapoteca, como migrante, como periférica, como feminista, entendiendo cuál es el lugar desde el que yo asumo la resistencia contra este sistema que nos quiere desaparecer y borrar nuestra memoria.
And I'm Zapoteca, I'm a migrant, I'm a feminist, and really, how can we be in resistance?
Así que creo que ese es el por qué soy rapera, por qué me involucré en el hip hop, porque necesitaba encontrar mi lugar y mi voz.
And that's why I found myself in hip hop, to find my voice. That's why I'm a rapper.
Y ahora me doy cuenta que es una herramienta para poder nombrarnos en comunidad, para poder cuestionarnos en voz más alta y para poder encontrarnos como hoy estamos aquí.
And really, it's a tool to build community and to really be able to ask the questions and say the things out loud.
Eso sería por ahora.
And that would be all.
Alright, so why hip hop for me? So I was growing up in South Minneapolis in the 90s, and hip hop, for better or worse, was just what was being played in my household all the time. Only my older brothers and my cousins and their boyfriends were playing music in the house, and it was always rap, you know, the whole East Coast, West Coast thing, Tupac, Biggie, and then, you know, the Fugees, the Loonies, Nas, you know, just all that golden era hip hop and rap, and the message resonated with my immediate environment. So when they talked about gangbanging, or they talked about having to sell drugs to make a living, or they talked about their struggles living on Section 8 housing, things like that, it resonated with my immediate environment, so I was drawn to it as a young kid. And I hear the same story from a lot of natives who also grew up on the res, you know. On the res, a lot of times, they don't have anything other than sports. You know, you go to school and then you got sports, or else there's like partying and alcohol. And you kind of get entrapped within that cycle if you don't make a conscious effort to get out of it. So that's why I gravitated toward rap and hip hop. It related to my message and my story. And then as I got older, about 14 years old, I started writing my own raps. I became inspired by the music videos on TV. You know, some of my brother's friends who were local rappers in the Minneapolis hip hop scene. You know, one of my cousins spitting raps into a tape recorder. And I would watch Freestyle Fridays on 106 and Park on BET. Every Friday after school, I'd rush home and watch the battles. And that inspired me to start writing raps myself. And I never saw myself doing anything with it, actually. It was just a hobby, you know, and then it turned into, you know, rapping for my friends and stuff like that. And then as I got older, you know, I started making some of those mistakes that I was being exposed to as a young kid, you know, the alcohol and the partying, getting into trouble. I started making those mistakes myself, and that went on for about 5-6 years. And while I was in college, I ended up getting sober. And I needed something to fill all that time that I used to spend partying, you know. So I was like, well, I love rapping, you know, that's something I enjoy. So maybe I'll try doing that full time and doing it for real as a career, or just, you know, as something as an outlet. So I picked it up and I started reaching out to local MCs in the hip hop community and producers, and I started getting studio time and wrote and recorded my first tracks and hit up some open mics. And it just kind of all came from there, you know. And mind you, this is, as a young Native kid, I went through the foster care system. I went to like 30 different schools, kindergarten through 12th grade. So that was another thing, is that hip hop empowered my voice as an introvert, you know what I mean? But also as a Native, and not hearing a lot of other Native rappers out there at the time. It empowered me to be a Native hip hop voice for my people that can more specifically relate to my people. And yeah, so that's why I use it. I use it to try to inspire, motivate, and empower my people, but all communities, and just, you know, make the music that comes from my soul and that people can naturally relate to. And that's how I connect with my people naturally. You know, whoever supports my music, I appreciate it. But yeah, that's why I do hip hop. It empowers my voice. It gives me an opportunity to be, you know, a symbol of change within my community, somebody that the youth can look up to, somebody that other grown men can look at and be like, yo, how did you get sober? How did you do this? How did you do that? So I just try to use hip hop as a vehicle for change. And yeah, that's why I chose hip hop. And that's why I do hip hop.
Bien. Marimari puche mule palo mauple mapuche tainche wal mapumeo kupan tani tugor wal mapu mapuche pigohoi tain kui fike cheyen fei mutamule pain toachi mapumeo cherokee mapumeo ayuglei ni piuke. Buen día a toda la gente presente, yo soy mapuche, gente de la tierra. Este es mi idioma nativo, somos gente de la tierra, decían nuestros abuelos, por eso mantenemos el idioma donde quiera que estemos, y estoy contento de estar en esta tierra nativa, tierra Cherokee.
Good morning, good people. I am Mapuche, people of the land, and my grandpa would say that we are the people of the land and we keep the languages coming, and I'm happy to be here in Cherokee land with you all.
El hip hop para mí es música popular, es música del pueblo. Cuando escuchaba rock no tenía dinero para tener una guitarra eléctrica, no tenía dinero para tener instrumentos costosos. En cambio el hip hop solo tenía que improvisar lo que yo sentía e imaginar, era creatividad.
And hip hop is the music of the people, of the masses. Whenever I would listen to rock, I didn't have money to buy an electric guitar, but with hip hop you use your creativity and you improvise to make the music.
Cuando vi mis primeros videos de hip hop, veía afrodescendientes que eran gente humilde, gente de pueblo. Empecé a ver gente latina en los videoclips y decía, yo también soy así, yo también puedo mostrar mi barrio. Y el hip hop no me pedía dinero para hacer música. Salía a la calle y mis amigos hacían beatbox y yo solamente me colocaba a improvisar y sentía que podía volar con rimas.
And when I would watch the hip hop videos, I would see Afro-descendant people and Latinx people and humble people, and I said, that's me. And hip hop didn't ask for money for me to be able, didn't need money for me to use hip hop. It would just come from beats from my friends, and I would feel like I was flying with the rhymes.
Con el tiempo fui comprendiendo, más allá del dinero, lujos que una corriente del hip hop mostró, pero había otra corriente que mostraba la realidad, era un espejo de tu realidad. Si eras pobre, no te sentías mal por ser pobre, si eras de un barrio humilde o si era, en este caso como nosotros, indígena, pueblo nativo, y sentí que podía mostrar lo que era, mostrar mi idioma nativo, el idioma mapuche, mostrar cómo nos tienen oprimido como pueblo y amplificar la realidad del pueblo mapuche en Chile a través del hip hop.
And really throughout the time and even past all the money, I saw that there was this way of hip hop that showed the reality. It was like a mirror. It didn't matter if you were poor. It didn't matter if you were indigenous. It really was a place where we could show our language, show the Mapuche, be able to see the reality of the oppression here in Chile for the people.
Sentía que la gente no conoce a los pueblos nativos. Allá en Chile nos dicen indios, y yo en mi casa decía, nosotros no somos indios, nosotros somos mapuche. Cristóbal Colón creyó que había llegado a la India y dijo, aquí son todos indios. Y no, acá yo decía en mi casa con mis amigos, mi comunidad mapuche, acá hay charrúa, guaraní, quechua, zapoteca, mixteco, pero no somos indios. Entonces ahí dije, esto lo voy a rapear. Me daba tanta impotencia o rabia que necesitaba expresarlo.
And really, people didn't know who we were. They didn't know who the native people were. They would call us Indians, but we are not Indians. We are Mapuches. Christopher Columbus came and thought that he was in India, but we're not Indians and labeled all as Indians. We are Charupa, Guanimil, Zapoteca, Mixtecas. We're not Indians, and I was just filled with rage every time that I heard that.
Cuando hice mis primeras letras en español y escuchaba mucho rap en inglés y español y decía, no hay rap en mapudungún, en el idioma mapuche. No escuchaba rap en idioma de pueblos nativos. Entonces en mí dije, parece que esto es lo que me toca hacer, siento que es necesario parte de descolonizar nuestra mentalidad, de sacarnos la mentalidad de los invasores, era volver al idioma de nuestra tierra. Y empecé a hacer rap y me di cuenta que las nuevas generaciones se empezaron a identificar con el pensamiento mapuche.
And when I started to have my first lyrics in Spanish, I would listen to rap in English and Spanish and I would hear that, but there was not any rap in Mapuche, in the native language. And really this was a way to decolonize and to really go against the invader language and return to our language. And the new generations were able to see that as well.
Como pueblo mapuche tenemos nuestro propio territorio, nuestras propias comidas, nuestra propia espiritualidad, nuestra propia política. Tenemos un mundo vivo propio, pero que la gente no lo conoce. Nos dicen borracho, cabeza de palo, caremono, indios, flojos, no quieren trabajar. Son toneladas de discriminación que era necesario sacarla para que conocieran el mundo mapuche real.
And we have our own territory, we have our own food, our own spirituality, our own lives. But people wouldn't see that. They would question us or call us drunk or Indian or lazy. And really we would see that discrimination that was showing.
El hip hop rap tiene para mí una cualidad que es hablar con ritmo, hablar con estilo, con flow. Entonces cuando tú haces una rima contagiosa, pegajosa, puedes tocar el espíritu de otra persona y a la vez puedes educar. Si tocas el corazón de esa persona ya va a dejar de pensar como lo hacía y va a tomar ese consejo y lo va a internalizar. Eso lo puede provocar el rap.
And really for rap, you need to have your rhythm, you need to have your flow, you need to put in spirit, and it really allows you to send a message so that people can change their way of thinking and be able to hear and experience new things.
Hoy día, ya después de 15 años haciendo rap en idioma mapuche, me he dado cuenta que hay niños y niñas que están rapeando en idioma mapuche sin saber el idioma mapuche. Y fue una experiencia que a mí me pasó porque yo rapeaba en inglés cuando escuchaba rap en inglés y yo no sabía inglés. Y hoy día quise hacer eso, los niños están rapeando en idioma mapuche sin saber mapudungún, pero es una entrada para que conozcan el idioma.
And now that I've been doing this rapping for 15 years and singing in Mapuche and rapping in Mapuche, there are kids who are able to rap in Mapuche without even knowing the language. And it was the same thing for me whenever I would hear English rap. I would do the same thing. But it's really an entryway for people and kids and the youth to be able to know this language or hear it without even knowing or understanding.
Hoy en día sacamos un último álbum, el Mapu Beats. Mapu significa tierra. Para nosotros la tierra, desde el pensamiento mapuche, es nuestra familia. Los árboles, las plantas, cada hormiga, cada piedra, ahí están nuestros abuelos, nuestros antepasados. Por eso mapuche significa gente de la tierra. Y por eso para nosotros, nuestros hermanos de pueblo nativo también son gente de la tierra. Tenemos una historia en común, tenemos sabiduría en común, incluso símbolos tejidos en común.
And with what I'm doing right now with Mapu Beats, Mapu means land, and that's connected to our ancestors, to the trees, to the plants, And we are people of the land. And I have a lot in common with my indigenous brothers and sisters. We have so much in common that we are able to weave together. And we are connected to our ancestors.
Nuestros abuelos y abuelas nos enseñaron cuando era pequeño de que el idioma de los pueblos nativos es el idioma de la naturaleza, el hablar de la tierra. Entonces, cuando yo hablo el idioma mapuche, me escucha la montaña, me escuchan los ríos, me escucha el mar. Es un idioma para hablar con la naturaleza. En cambio, el idioma español o idioma inglés son idiomas solo para hablar entre seres humanos.
The elders taught us when we were young that our language is a way to connect to the land, to the nature, to be able to listen to the rivers and to understand the oceans, when English and Spanish are only to connect with people.
Cuando salgo en la mañana al trabajo, yo voy saludando a los árboles, a los pajaritos, voy hablando con ellos y la gente que no conoce el idioma mapuche allá en Chile dice, oh, este está loco. Pero para nosotros es normal hablar con la naturaleza.
And when I go out in the mornings, I say hi to the trees and hi to the plants. And people who don't understand my language will say, oh, you're just crazy.
Por eso es tan importante que no se pierdan las lenguas madres. La lengua de esta tierra tiene su propio idioma. Hoy en día los idiomas de nuestro pueblo nativo están en peligro de extinción porque quienes los hablan son los adultos mayores. Los idiomas de la tierra están envejecidos. Solo lo hablan los abuelitos y abuelitas. Las nuevas generaciones no están hablando el idioma de la tierra. Por eso para mí hacerlo a través de la música es que los niños sean nuevos hablantes de los idiomas nativos.
And it's really important that we keep speaking our languages and sharing them, because there have been languages that have been lost and languages that are endangered, because right now there's only elders or grandparents or the older generations that speak them and use them. And these new generations aren't speaking the language of the earth and the mother tongue. We need to preserve it.
Voy a hacer una pequeña rapeada en idioma de la tierra.
I'm going to give some rap in the language of the earth,
En el idioma mapuche.
in the Mapuche language.
Kimon seu trepeli, amotula no chafa wa potuli, fei mutani piu ke puruki, tain kume mongen, weftu ke pa taka, chichi pantu monge fullo kui fimeo, tain chacha yem tain mapu meu, tu culpa in tain wintu meu, kume piu ke ni yiru kameu, swamimi mai, kinto afimita mi swam, kopape come ke ne wanto machisungu, swamimi mai, kinto afimita mi swam, akutu ikumenewen. Lida. Con el flow y el estilo del rap uno puede llegar, y aunque no entiendan el idioma mapuche, pero sí es un entendimiento espiritual.
And you have to have flow and style for that. And even if you don't understand the Mapuche language, you are able to hear and understand the spiritual and feel it.
Nosotros los mapuches en Chile fuimos reducidos a las peores tierras. Teníamos 10 millones de hectáreas antes de que nos invadiera el Estado de Chile. Hoy día el pueblo mapuche solo tiene 500.000 hectáreas, de 10 millones.
Chile now, we have been pushed or reduced to the outskirts or the bad places of the land. And before we had 10 million people, now we have about 50,000 people.
50.000 o 500.000.
500.000. El Estado de Chile nos usurpó, nos robó, y de 10 millones de hectáreas, hoy día tenemos 500.000.
And yeah, the state of Chile has reduced us now. We have 500,000 hectáreas.
Por eso, en la actualidad, las comunidades están en el proceso de recuperación de tierras contra el Estado de Chile, contra las empresas. y por eso actualmente tenemos presos políticos mapuches encarcelados porque están en recuperación de tierra y el Estado dice que somos terroristas y los encierra, protegiendo las tierras en manos de las empresas. Extractivismo, claro. El Estado le da las tierras a las empresas para que realicen extractivismo, explotación, y nosotros los mapuches nos oponemos a eso y nos encierran en la cárcel, y las leyes contra los mapuches son muy duras, muy crudas.
And right now in Chile, we have people who are fighting for the land and are getting punished and are being held as political prisoners. And really the people who are in power, the people who are the businesses, are taking land from our people, and our people are getting locked up, and they're having to fight against that.
Luanco. So ese es el tema, la siguiente pregunta, que es sobre la comunidad. And so I was saying, Luanco, that that's the next question, you know, because we were talking about this morning about that, you know, how their music relate with their communities and their specific issues that their communities are facing. And so the next question for the group is about community, you know. Like these days, people are searching for communities, people are reactivating their you know, like links with community. And so I wanted to ask Mari and Paul and Luanco about their communities. You know, like how do they define community these days? You know, sometimes when we say indigenous peoples, you know, we forget the complexity of what that means. When we say even, you know, the Mapuche people, we also have to remember the complexity within the Wallmapu, the peoples from the coast, like how Luanco was explaining, the people from the Pehuen, different communities, different tribes, clans, families. So the question for you is like, how do you define community and how does your language relate with your community?
Voy a interrumpir al banco, que estaba muy interesante su conversación. Justo creo que para mí, desde la cosmovisión zapoteca, cada persona tenemos una tarea dentro de nuestra comunidad. Somos parte de una comunidad en tanto recibimos algo de ella, pero también damos algo a nuestra comunidad.
I believe that for me, as a Zapoteca person, I believe that we all have chores and we all have a homework and a task to do within the community and within each other. And it's basically a thing of giving and receiving.
La música, el arte es parte de esas tareas. Para mí ha sido el poder utilizar la palabra para comunicar, para contar la historia de nuestros pueblos, pero también para cuestionarnos hacia el interior cómo hemos aceptado esas violencias, cómo hemos permitido que nos dañen estas violencias, y creo justo como pensando en que el arte también es parte de una sanación colectiva.
I also believe that music and art is the way that we can share our word. We can tell our stories of our communities. You can share our interior and how violence has allowed, and how we also accepted violence. And the art collective, that's the way that we can all heal as a community.
Un ejemplo claro para mí fue hace unos años, en 2017, hubo un terremoto muy fuerte en la zona zapoteca del Istmo, en Oaxaca, del Istmo de Tehuantepec.
An example of this, in 2017, there was an earthquake
En la zona zapoteca del Istmo de Tehuantepec.
en el Istmo de Zapoteca, en el Istmo, en the zona Zapoteca, in the Zapoteca zone.
Y en la comunidad dejó de haber música, dejó de haber fiesta, la gente vivía en un luto porque la ciudad, el pueblo había tenido muchas muertes.
And for this time, there was no music, there was no art. Everybody was in grief, and there was so many deaths.
A mí me tocó ser parte del acompañamiento en este territorio y me di cuenta que estando ahí por 7 días, yo tampoco canté nada en todo ese tiempo.
And this was part of the grief. I would say that probably around 7 days I didn't say anything, I didn't sing. I couldn't.
Hasta que al final de esos días llegamos con unas compañeras que son bordadoras, que preservan la tradición textil de la comunidad.
And honestly, I think that it was something until this group of people that they're in the textile industry and they sew, that's when they got there to the community.
Y ellas nos pidieron que si nosotras éramos artistas, en este caso otra compañera rapera y yo, que les cantáramos algo. Nos pidieron de favor que lo hiciéramos y fue ahí donde yo me di cuenta de lo mucho que dolía compartir la música cuando la comunidad estaba dañada también.
And they asked us as artists to sing for them. They asked me and my partner to sing a song for them, and it wasn't until then that I realized how much it hurts to share that part of me.
Desde ahí me he puesto a observar eso, ¿no? Una comunidad está viva cuando sus manifestaciones culturales, cuando su arte se ve vivo también.
A community is alive when their art is alive too.
And that's when I realized that a community is alive when their arts are alive as well.
En lugares donde la violencia por la guerra contra el narcotráfico en México ha golpeado el territorio, tampoco hay fiesta.
In a place where violence and narco-traffickings are, there's no party, there's no celebration.
Así que creo que el arte es ese indicador también. Tanto nosotros podemos ayudar a que las comunidades sanen, tanto somos parte de este símbolo de que la comunidad está viva.
And I think that that's part of the art that we can see, that we can heal as a community, and we can be part of that collective.
And that it's a symbol that it's
And that it's a symbol that is alive.
Y ese es nuestro lugar como comunidad, ¿no? Somos parte también de esa comunidad viva que aportamos nuestra tarea para cuidar a la comunidad y que recibimos también de la comunidad ese cuidado.
And that's where we see that we're in a place of a community that is alive and that we receive and that we can share.
and we're doing our
And
part.
we're doing our part.
Y ahí hablo no solo de una comunidad zapoteca, retomaría el feminismo comunitario hablando de la comunidad de comunidades, donde vemos la comunidad zapoteca, pero también el territorio de Oaxaca y el territorio de México, y pensando cómo se siguen escalando estos grupos donde podemos ser parte, donde podemos aportar, donde nos nutrimos, donde aprendemos. Hasta hoy mismo estando aquí podemos seguir compartiendo y seguir nutriéndonos como comunidades.
And this is as a Zapoteca community, this is where we see how we can see each other communicating, and in a Mexican territory where this group can keep escalating as a part of keep nurturing and sharing for
With
our community
and with other communities.
and
Y el
with
pre-
other communities as well.
Y el pretexto, pues es la música, el arte, lo que nos convoca y lo que sigue dándonos un lugar dentro de la comunidad. Gracias.
And the excuse for this, it is
To be able to have
and be part of the community.
Alright, so with my people, I'm Anishinaabe, more specifically I'm Ojibwe, and the word Anishinaabe just means human being or original man. And you know, one of our cultural and spiritual teachings is that we are spiritual beings before we're human beings. So I kind of have this, there's this dilemma, you know, that we deal with as human beings, but also as indigenous people, as Ojibwe people. we are taught that we are spiritual beings before human beings, but then as human beings, the more we embrace our humanness, it's kind of like the further we get away from our spiritual essence. So, and that's just like a catch-22 situation that I have to embrace both with balance, you know, because both empower me. Like I can remember stories of my mom saying things like, you know, Paul, I'm so glad you chose me to be your mother. And that in that phrase lies that teaching of we're spiritual beings before we're human beings. And that's often said in a lot of Native tribes, you know, but then we have our own languages and our own cultures and all these things that set us apart from one another as well. But they also empower us within those communities, you know, so it's a lot of complexity to it. And I grew up in the inner city, so I didn't learn my language at a young age. The Ojibwe language was in the Guinness Book of Records, actually, for being one of the most complex languages to learn on the planet. And you can conjugate a verb 1,000 different ways, you know, so in order to learn it, you have to either be immersed into it at a very young age as a kid, which some people are successfully doing, but you know, it is technically a dying language, you know, and it's very much going through the revitalization process. And of course, the death of our language or the dying state of our languages as a result of colonization, boarding school, historical trauma, you know, them coming here saying, kill the Indian, save the man, putting us in boarding schools, forcibly taking us away from our families, cutting our hair, dressing us up in, you know, white man clothing and all that kind of stuff. You know, it was effective in eliminating our language to a large degree. So that is why today, much of my community we grow up in, we're not exposed to our language from a young age. And in that way, they were able to take a lot of our indigenous identity away from us. So as a young kid, I grew up with that identity crisis inside of me. You know, there was a gap that needed to be bridged. I said, I know what it means to be Native. Like, I know that I'm Native. I know I got this brown skin, and I know I'm, you know, Ojibwe and everything. But what does that really mean on a cultural and spiritual level for me? And I wasn't being taught that within my household because we were very much, you know, assimilated and everything. You know, the most exposure I got was like going to powwows, and then as I got a little bit older, sweat lodge ceremonies, and I was able to slowly but surely get more attached to my culture and my tribal identity. And then when I got to college, I took the Ojibwe language for 2 years. And I realized like so much of our culture is tied up in that language, and you cannot translate the language to English. Like there'll be a word in Ojibwe and it takes like 5 different words to translate it to English. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, it's like Ojibwe language is very complex, but the whole culture is wrapped up in it. You know, so I'm so grateful that I was able to learn it as much as I did. But one of the things my teacher told me was what you do for the language will do for you. So I got this idea at the University of Minnesota for my senior project to write a song called Prayers in a Song, in which the chorus is Ojibwe. And that was my contribution to language revitalization for our Ojibwe Moan language, to try to help revitalize it, because had I been exposed to it as a young kid, I would have learned it just like I learned English. You know, I don't remember learning English, I just know it. So I know that it's important for kids to be exposed at a young age, so I made a hip hop song in Ojibwe so that it could resonate with the youth, because hip hop is such a universal culture that spreads far around the world, and it appeals to the youth. And sure enough, you know, I've heard the song is being taught in classrooms overseas around the world. And, you know, people are inboxing me saying, you know, you inspired me to learn my own language. And that was really my goal is, you know, how can I put this language into hip hop so that it can be a revitalization tool and a tool to inspire others to learn their own languages as well. And it culminated in the song Prayers in a Song. But as far as like, you know, how I identify community, you know, I'm cool with everybody. You know, obviously I'm born and raised as a Native, so I'm tight-knit to my people the most. But I also understand that we're all human beings, and I'm cool with everybody who's cool with me. And I got a message for anybody who relates to it, you know, and y'all will see that on Friday when we perform. But yeah, community, I'm down with everybody. I'm down for, you know, empowerment. Anybody who rocks with me, I rock with them. But of course, I'm Anishinaabe and proud. And thank you, Miigwech.
Un hermano mapuche me contaba y me explicaba que si yo le pido fuerza a un árbol y se lo pido en español o en inglés, el árbol no me va a dar esa fuerza porque el árbol no habla inglés y no habla español. Pero yo, si se lo pido, dame fuerza en idioma mapuche, el árbol me va a dar esa fuerza porque entiende el idioma de la tierra.
One time, a Mapuche brother explained to me that if I ask for strength from a tree in English or in Spanish, the tree will not understand me. But if I ask for strength from the tree in Mapuche, they will.
Una abuelita mapuche que habla el idioma mapuche, habla mejor el idioma mapuche que el español, la abuelita me decía que sus nietos no querían aprender el idioma mapuche y le daba mucha rabia a ella porque sus nietos estaban hablando solo español.
There was a grandma who spoke Mapuche better than in Spanish, and she was very angry because her grandchildren did not want to speak Mapuche.
Y un día escuchó a sus nietos hablando palabras mapuche y la abuelita le dijo, ¿de dónde aprendiste a hablar mapuche?
And one time the grandma heard her grandchildren saying a word in Mapuche, and she was like, "Where did you learn that word?"
Y sus nietos le dijeron, es que nos gusta el rap y estamos escuchando rap del banco.
It's because we like rap and we are listening to Luanco's rap.
Y desde ahí que la abuelita mapuche me contaba que todos los días le ponía mi música y rapeaba con ellos en mapudungun.
And she would tell me that she would just play my music all the time and she would rap with them.
Conté esta historia porque creo que creo firmemente en que una de las formas de recuperación del idioma de la tierra, de los idiomas de nuestros pueblos, se puede hacer a través de la música. La música es un canal de educación, la música es un canal para despertar espiritualmente y podemos llegar a tocar corazones y comprender. El objetivo final es que generar neohablantes, de que no se pierda el idioma de la naturaleza.
And I tell this story because I really believe that this is a channel to be able to reclaim our language, to be able to connect, to be able to spiritually come awake and not be able to lose our language.
Cuesta mucho volver a aprender el idioma de nuestras tierras. Sobre todo nosotros tenemos una historia en común, que fuimos criados en la ciudad y que nos arrebataron nuestra lengua, nos quitaron el idioma materno.
And it's hard because, and for us who grew up in the city, we had our mother tongue ripped from us.
Entonces, una de las formas que yo volví a aprender el idioma mapuche es que yo me ganaba en las ceremonias mapuche al lado de los abuelitos y cuando ellos oraban en el idioma mapuche, yo iba repitiendo todo lo que ellos decían. Lo hice por años. Fue la forma, mi creencia, y después de que aprendí a orar en idioma mapuche, me iba a la montaña a orar en idioma mapuche.
And a way that I was able to relearn was by sitting at the foot of elders in ceremony and praying. And when they would pray, I would pray with them and repeat. And I did this for years until I learned the prayers and then I went up to the mountains and prayed.
Después, abuelos de comunidades en el campo me decían, usted que vive en la ciudad, ¿cómo habla el idioma mapuche si es tan difícil aprenderlo en la ciudad? Y yo le decía que me juntaba con abuelitos mapuche, mis mejores amigos no eran gente joven, sino eran abuelitos mapuche.
And the elders who were out in the country would say, well, how did you learn, are able to learn this in the city? It's really hard to learn Mapuche in the city. And I would tell them, I sit with the elders and spend my time with them in the city.
Entonces, si uno quiere volver a su idioma de su pueblo, siento que no hay excusas, que se puede. Cuando uno le pone creencia, Feyentún le decimos nosotros, Feyentún es creencia, todo se puede lograr.
And if you want to be able to return to your language, there are no excuses. We have this word that is called Feyentú, which means belief or creencia.
Y los mapuches somos muy buenos para conversar porque en la conversación es una forma de sanar en nuestra universidad, la conversación. Por eso podríamos estar conversando acá todo el día, pero como veo que se paró Juan, voy a detenerme.
And in my culture, we are really good at talking because we believe that it's a way to heal. And we could be here all day having those conversations, but I just saw Juan stand up over there, so I think that we have to move on.
No, perdón. I just want to say before you leave, I know that we're trying to respect your time, but of course we will continue. But we will. That's the thing. So we have so many activities this week, and I hope that you come because they are going to be so different. There is so much that our guests are bringing to share with you. This is the reason why we are here. So I hope that you make space. Sometimes there are urgent things, but there are more important things, and I think that this is important. So I hope that you see it. And so the mural, for example, is a space where we are all going to be there, trying to understand that bridge among us. And we need that in this country, in this time, and this is the message that we want to bring, right now. So the artists are also bringing some merchandise, music, and stuff. If you wanna, come and talk with them and get stuff to listen to music, and we are gonna have an event this afternoon at 5:30 p.m. in the Grotto in High Smith. And it's going to be open, there's going to be music and dancing, and if you want to improvise, etc., that's the idea. And so come this afternoon, yeah? And thank you, everybody. So Luan, who has some merchandise, if you want to, and this is important because, this helps. I hope that you understand the context, it's really important to support, artists. So, thank you so much, everybody. Gracias, Chiqui.